Hello everybody and welcome back to Tyrion Cuthbert, Attorney of the Arcane. Last time we actually, went through, we saw the, what's it called? The groundwork for the murder and all that, the lead up. Now we're actually investigating. So, let's do that. Let's investigate. Still sick. I hate being sick. I can't believe they kept us here until noon. The Lord's ball had already run well into the night, even before the murder occurred. I wanted nothing more than to catch up on my lost sleep, but I made a promise to the Crown Prince. After a meeting with William, she was with her brother and the entire night. She couldn't have stolen the sword of spell-eating and have murdered her father. Of all the people that could have done those two crimes, why would Steelman suspect a blind woman? Steelman was never one to abuse her authority. There had to be a reason behind the arrest. Not to mention that the sword of spell-eating had been stolen. After what Harold had said about it, I was uneasy about it going missing. Mr. Cuthbert, would you defend Beatrice against these awful charges? I doubt that will be necessary. What? Beatrice is Ruby's client. I'm sure that she'll be the one defending her. Well, that certainly puts my mind at ease. What's wrong? I'd like for you to investigate the crime scene for me, Mr. Cuthbert. What? But we just told you that Miss Timora will... I know, but Beatrice is a dear friend of mine. I'd like every chance for her to be found innocent. She was a dear friend? They must have known each other since she was a Frege. But why would Miss Timora, of all people, represent a member of a Pillar family? Leaf also seemed like she hadn't seen Beatrice in a long time. It was as if she'd spotted a ghost. I can't believe this. Celeste returned to the ballroom. She'd changed back into her normal clothes. What's wrong? The people in the courtroom said that they couldn't find my sword. What? Celeste's missing sword. When Celeste went to the courtroom to change, she was told that her sword had gone missing. Someone else must have taken it. She'd once told me that it was forged in the Eastern Kingdoms and crafted from the bones of a purple worm. It was potentially very valuable. Did somebody steal it? Let's keep an eye out for it while we look around the manor. This might all just be some kind of mix-up. I hope so. So... Can we continue what we were talking about before? Oh, why was I so nervous about this? I just needed to tell her how I felt. How did I feel? It might be for the best that we focus on the investigation. His Highness is counting on us, after all. I was being a coward, but there was a kernel of truth to what I was saying. Okay, but we will be talking about this later. Let's head to the crime scene. His Highness said that that's where the body was found. I haven't been able to do this yet. Ah, there it is. Thanks for fixing my runestone. I was worried I'd have to buy a replacement. Honestly, artificer is kind of fun. I kind of want to make something else. Did you want to learn how to make small machines? I was thinking more of a weapon. Be careful. Making magic weapons can be iffy with the kingdom's laws. Well, it's a good thing I have a pretty good lawyer. Are you worried about your missing sword? No. Well, yes, I am worried. But I'm sure it'll turn up eventually. She was trying her best to hide how worried she was. I knew how important her sword was to her. Hopefully it would turn up somewhere in the manor. Alright. Do you go to the gallery or do we go to the study? Oh, I'm gonna go to the study. I arrived at the crime scene and saw the usual swarm of Inquisition knights. However, there are also some members of the King's Guard alongside them. They must have been working together since the victim was the head of the Pillar family. I wasn't expecting to see you here, Mr. Cuthbert. I thought... Okay. Voice crack. I thought Ruby Timora was defending this case. Prosecutor Steelman approached us as we entered the study. And she was followed by an unexpected yet familiar face. Wallace? What are you doing here? He's my aide. He's here as my aide for the investigation. I didn't doubt Wallace's abilities, but why would Steelman need his help? Steelman, he's a doctor, not an investigator. Anyways, we're here on behalf of the Crown Prince. He hired us to investigate the case independently. I see. I'm sure he just wants to make sure the investigation goes smoothly. Well, if you're here on behalf of His Highness, I'll do whatever I can to help you. This whole situation was strange, but our goal remained the same. Steelman should be able to tell us more about what happened. I'm a lawyer. Your runestone is still in good shape, I see. Only because Celeste is pretty good at repairing it. You never told me you could work with artificery. I just started learning it about a month ago. Really? What's wrong? It's nothing. How does she have so much raw natural talent? What can you tell me about the murder? William Frege was found dead in this room after the lockdown was lifted. Wait, lockdown? What lockdown? From what we can tell, his throat had been slashed open with a letter opener. The cause of death was blood loss. Both of his carotid arteries were severed. It was expertly done. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. Here's the autopsy report if you want a detailed description. Autopsy report: William Frege died at 3:12 a.m. Cause of death was blood loss after his throat was slashed open. Both carotid arteries were severed, meaning that death must have followed mere seconds after the wound was inflicted. Body shows several scratch marks on the face and back. Traces of illusion magic were also found on the body. Were you able to find the murder weapon? Yes, it was a letter opener owned by the victim. The murderer must have found it in this room and used it. There was one strange detail about the weapon. The handle was completely shattered. We're not sure what to make of that detail, but it's as if something crushed the handle using tremendous force. Obtained evidence. Murder weapon. The murder weapon was a letter opener with House Frege's crest on it. It must have been owned by the victim. Its handle was completely shattered. It would have taken a tremendous amount of force to crush it like that. What could have caused the handle to shatter like that? My dog is staring at me. No! Stay there. Ah! What's wrong? The entire room is covered in traces of abjuration magic. Everything is glowing white. Right, that makes sense. There were several anti-magic fields covering the manor. Those fields probably left traces of abjuration everywhere. I won't bother showing you the traces of abjuration I find while we're here. Ah. There's a pool of blood and a chalk outline where the body must have been. Okay, what's the point of the detect magic thing if we can't use the detect magic spell? If it doesn't reveal anything ever. It was used once in case 2. As the tutorial for it. And then, like, never again. There's a window that leads into this room. Could the murderer have escaped through here? No, the window didn't open and the glass was magically reinforced. It's a bookshelf filled with books. I wonder what kind of books the Duke owned. Wait a minute, they're all blank! All of his real books must be on the floor on his desk. There's a large mahogany table at the end of the room. The Duke must have done his work here. There are several books about economics and politics. It doesn't look like there's anything of note. It's a fireplace. Could the murderer have entered through here? That wouldn't be possible. The chimney is far too narrow. Even a small child wouldn't be thin enough to fit through it. It's a painting of some sort of scholar. There's some text on it. Rook Resinger. Economic scholar and aristocratic accountant. He was known in some circles as Rook the Cook, due to his abilities to cook the books of the four pillar houses. Rook the Cook. Sometimes I wish I could have a nickname like that. What about Crimson Demon? Not that one. That's not. Another chandelier. This room probably costs more than my family's tavern. Okay, back to talking. You mentioned that there was a lockdown. When did this happen? You didn't notice. The Inquisition did try to be discreet. But everyone noticed the commotion Beatrice and the two princes made over it. I suppose you two must have been lost in your own little world, weren't you? Oh. Anyways, you said that the Duke's body was found after the lockdown? Was lockdown triggered when the Sword of Spell Eating went missing? It didn't just go missing. There was clear evidence that someone had broken into one of the heralds and exhibits. So there was also a theft last night. Does the Manor's lockdown system behave like the one at the Imperial Academy? The systems are somewhat different. Unlike the Imperial Academy, the lockdown only prevented people from leaving or entering the manor. So not all of the rooms were locked. But what about this specific room? This room does have obdurative wards that lock the door and prevent teleportation in and out of it. Sorry. In addition to that, the system placed an anti-magic field over the manor. Obtained evidence, anti-magic field. While concentrating on the spell, the caster forms a 10-foot radius sphere that nullifies all magic within it. Any spell effect that enters the sphere instantly dissipates, and any mage that tries to cast a spell within the zone will fail to do so. And the system somehow covered the entire manor in this effect. Yeah, this is spells. School, abjuration, incantation, cauteria, gesture none, duration while concentration yes. I'm sure you noticed that several purple crystals embedded in the walls of the manor. Each of those crystals produced an anti-magic field during the lockdown. Lockdown system. The lockdown system covers the entire manor. Once activated, it creates magical barriers that prevent anyone from leaving or teleporting over the building. In addition to this, it covers the entire manor in an anti-magic field. Within this field, any and all magical effects are nullified and disabled. However, anyone physically or magically connected to the Swords of Spell Eating would be immune to the effects of the anti-magic fields. So no one could cast magic during the entirety of the lockdown. Not exactly. Someone could have used the stolen artifact to circumvent it. Can you tell me more about this theft? Who reported it? After Lord Haraldson reported what had happened, the Inquisition discreetly placed the manor on lockdown. They searched every room in the manor to try to find it. But it was eventually found in Beatrice's room. And that led them to believe... Excuse me, that she had stolen it. That's correct. The King's Guard moved to arrest her, but His Highness ordered them to step down. It didn't look like she was planning on fleeing, so they planned to wait until after the party had ended. But then they found the Duke's body. Correct. We believe that she used the stolen sword to nullify the magical locks and break into the Duke's study. But if she had the sword, why wouldn't she use that to commit the murder? We're not entirely sure. We have a few working theories. She might have wanted to prevent the theft from being tied to the murder. Or perhaps she had more confidence wielding a knife instead of a sword. Regardless of her reasons, it's clear that the sword wasn't the murder weapon. So she's not just being implicated in the Duke's murder, she's also being charged with stealing the Sword of Spell-Eating. But what possible reason would she have to do either of those crimes? And how could she possibly carry out all these crimes if she was blind? Since the body was found here, was the Duke locked in this room during the lockdown? Yes, William Frege knew that this room should have been secured. He was supposedly in a bad mood. He locked himself in the room for most of the night. He refused to let anyone into the room. The only person he spoke to after was Leaf. She tried to tell her father about the theft, but he was apparently preoccupied with something else. He said that he wanted to stay in his study for the rest of the night. When did this happen? It was shortly before the lockdown was activated, a little after 1 a.m. I see. Obtained evidence. Leaf's testimony. I love you, Leaf. After his meeting with Beatrice Frege, William Frege retreated into his study and locked himself within it. He refused to speak with almost everyone who tried to disturb him. The only person who spoke to was Leaf. She told him about the theft of the Sword of Spell-Eating a little after 1 a.m. But William Frege didn't seem to care and returned to his business. Leaf must have been the last person to see William Frege alive then. I was already acquainted with her. She might be able to tell me more about the Duke's actions that night. By the way, Steelwind, do you have a map of the manor? I do. Would you like a copy? Please and thank you. Obtained evidence. Frege Manor, floor 1. It's a map of the ground floor of Frege Manor. It shows the rooms relevant to the case. Obtained evidence. Frege Manor, floor 2. It's a map of the second floor of Frege Manor. It shows the rooms relevant to the case. I'm not gonna actually present something, I just want to look at them. Oh. Okay. Oh, the bomb was connected to... Okay. Okay. The bath is in a weird spot, but okay. William's bedroom. Gordon has a lot of places that enter from. Were there any other witnesses aside from Leaf who saw the Duke that night? There was someone who heard the altercation, but it's not much to go off of. A servant was trapped in a storage room nearby. The air vent that connects to this room runs through that storage room. He supposedly heard sounds of a struggle through that vent. What did this witness hear? There were sounds of a struggle before he heard the Duke choking, presumably on his own blood. When the lockdown was lifted, he informed the King's Guard of what he'd heard. That's when they discovered the body. I see. Who was this servant? I believe you actually know him. His name is Jan Hughes. What is Jan doing here? I never expected to see him again, much less here of all places. God damn. Did William Frege hire him after he was let go from the academy? Steelwind, I really need to understand why you think Beatrice did this. She's completely blind, isn't she? You don't know her as I do, but also blind people can still commit murder. It's not an impossibility, especially in a world of magic. It just seems really difficult to believe. House Frege has always thrived by politically maneuvering around the other pillar families, and no one has embodied that more than Beatrice. In her year studying at the Imperial Academy, she didn't just excel, she dominated. She has an uncanny talent for understanding what people wanted, and she knew exactly how to use that to her advantage. During her first year, she had the ear of the student council president. By her second year, she had stolen his position from him, and she only gained more influence after that. It wasn't long before the professors were deferring to her. Students would seek her favor. She even had her hands in the school board. In 4 short years, she had turned the Imperial Academy into her own personal empire. She's always calculating, and she knows exactly how to get what she wants. She was even arranged to marry the Crown Prince. Even now, I'm living in her shadow. What? Did something happen to change that? Yeah, she fucked off. She ran away. I won't speak much more of it, but there was an accident. She was horribly injured, and she lost her sight. I'm not sure what happened after that, but she later fled Frege Manor and went into hiding. Hi, dog. She's trying to climb up on me. No one knew where she'd gone, and she ignored any attempts we made to contact her. Last night's ball was the first time in years that Aster and I had seen her. Obtained evidence, Beatrice's story. Beatrice Frege fled from her family 5 years ago and went into hiding. Until the night of the murder, many of her friends and family members hadn't seen or heard from her. Then how did Miss Timora beat her? Would you happen to know why Beatrice was meeting with her father after all these years? I have some ideas, but nothing concrete. I was hoping you could tell me. Timora and Beatrice both refused to disclose anything about their meeting. What could that meeting have been about? Speaking of which, I haven't seen Timora anywhere in the manor. As the defendant's attorney, I would have thought that she'd be here to investigate the murder alongside you. Excuse me. That was strange, but Miss Timora has always had her own way of doing her job. Perhaps she was using a different strategy. Anyways, I imagine that she met with her father to request financial aid. What makes you say that? I have it on good authority that she was deeply in debt, but that seems so unlikely. Unlike her. Was she truly that desperate? That's the only reason she would speak with her father about all this, after all these years. It's also why I believe she was the one who murdered him. You think she murdered him for his inheritance? It's the only motive that makes sense. There was a lot to work through here. The prosecution was trying to assert that Beatrice committed the murder. But what would she have needed to do to carry out all the actions described? We need to narrow down the time that the murder occurred. When did the murder occur? The body was discovered after the lockdown was lifted. Enli Frege saw her father alive before it was activated. He entered his study and she watched as the lock engaged. Yeah. The theft occurred... Oh. No. Murder occurred after lockdown? No, if I assume that Leaf's testimony was correct, William Frege was alive before the lockdown was triggered. Not only that, he said that he would stay in the study for the rest of the night. Which meant that he never left his study. What? Oh, okay, during the lockdown. Right, the murder must have occurred during the lockdown. But that means that the murderer somehow got past the observation wards that protected this room. Steele and the Inquisition believe that Beatrice used the sword of spell-eating to get past them. Regardless of what they think, we need to assume that the murderer used some kind of magic nullification to get into William's study. But that's not necessarily true, is it? What if the murderer entered the room before William locked it? If they were in the room when William locked it, they would have been trapped here until he decided to leave. Not only that, they would have been discovered the moment the guards entered his study. Maybe they used some kind of invisibility. Or they could have teleported away the moment the King's Guard unlocked the door. This room is enchanted to block teleportation. A spell like that wouldn't have worked. Right, I remember Miriam did something similar to her dorm room at the Imperial Academy. What about Celeste's theory of an invisible assailant? I'll admit that we did find small traces of illusion magic. But the moment the guards saw the body, one of them cast Detect Magic. With that spell, they would have seen any invisible person hiding in this room. Wait, you can use Detect Magic like that? Of course, it's standard procedure. Like all spells, invisibility leaves traces of magic on the person it's cast on. Some mages can use Detect Magic as a way to see them. So we know for sure that they weren't here before or after the lockdown. This means that whoever committed the murder used some way to bypass the obturative wards that protect this room. Obtained a method of entry. What the fuck is that face, man? The murderer somehow entered William Freya's study despite it being protected with obturative wards. These wards magically locked the door, the only door leading into the room. They also prevented teleportation in and out of the room. It's possible to temporarily nullify these wards with a sort of spell-eating. The next thing to consider is the murder weapon. Where did the murder weapon come from? It was a letter opener that was presumably owned by William Frege. The murderer probably used it to avoid leaving evidence that incriminated them. The murderer took the murder weapon in Frege's study. Right. The letter opener came from this room. The murderer probably wanted to avoid using a weapon that would have implicated them. So they decided to use it and leave it here afterward. But that leaves a glaring hole in the prosecution's case. And what would that be, Mr. Cuthbert? What is flawed with the prosecution's case?
Maybe.
Beatrice Frege is completely blind. Even if she were to somehow break into a highly guarded exhibit, how did she slip past the guards and enter the Duke's study? Furthermore, how did she locate the letter opener if you couldn't see it in the first place? None of it makes sense. Committing this murder unseen would have been a tall order for anyone. I can hardly believe a blind person did all of this. You do well not to underestimate her, Mr. Cuthbert. Look, I understand that she's probably really intelligent, but it just seems impossible. If there's anything I know about Beatrice Frege, she can turn impossibility into inevitability if she wants to. Well, I guess we'll see. Can I ask you a question, Mr. Cuthbert? What's wrong? What would you do if you discovered that one of your clients was guilty? What? I tend to have an insight into these sort of things. I've never been in that position. I've already seen your uncanny ability to read people. But why don't you humor me? What would you do if they were guilty? I suppose I'd withdraw and tell them to find another lawyer. And if no one else would represent them, I don't know. It would definitely be a difficult choice for me. But I would never be able to represent them if I knew the truth. I don't think I can stand by and let a murderer escape justice. Why do you ask? No reason. Okay. Anyways, she made her stance clear. I still had a lot of leads to follow up on. Storage room. We entered the storage room, hoping to investigate the air vent that connected to the Duke's study. When we came across a person lying on the floor. What? Wait, Jan? Is that you?
Oh man, what was all the noise? I was having such a good nap too.
Mr. Hughes?
Oh, it's you two.
Why are you taking a nap in the storage room?
The King's Guard won't let us leave until they finish investigating the murder. And I spotted Lucio Steelman in that room with the nice couches. No way am I sleeping anywhere near that guy.
Lucio Steelman was here. I'm surprised someone like him would attend the Lord's ball. Anyways, the prosecutor told us that you heard the murder from here during the lockdown. Do you think you could tell us what happened?
Sure, why not? My nap's ruined anyways.
Let me examine this room first. There are several boxes in this room. They appear to contain several, various cleaning supplies. Same thing. It's a stepladder. I agree. You motherfuckers! You motherfuckers! You're supposed to debate about it! No, you're supposed to debate about it! No! Fuck you! Fuck you! You're supposed to have an argument about ladders and stepladders! Fuck you! It's an air vent that leads into the Duke's study. Supposedly, Jan heard the altercation between the Duke and his assailant through this. Okay, that's it.
Arcane.
Hey man, I'm a lawyer. So much evidence already.
I feel like we've done this before.
Sorry, did I already show you my roomstone at the academy?
I don't know. Probably. You know what they really need to make? A roomstone that can instantly clean any surface.
Why would an attorney need a function like that? Tyrion, you're stupid. So you're working as a servant now?
Not exactly, but I was part of the catering staff. The twins started their own food business after Frege threw us out of the academy.
Right, sorry about that.
Yeah, things happen. I'm honestly glad I'm out of that place.
Wait, are Valentina and Valerie here too?
No, they just contracted some staff to the Duke for the Lord's ball. I think a bunch of other businesses did the same thing.
I wonder how they felt about this. They lent their services to the very man who got them fired in the first place. William must have offered them a lot of gold.
Man, I can't believe I got myself pulled into another murder investigation. Do I have bad luck or what?
The prosecutor told us that you heard the altercation through the air vents. Could you tell us exactly what you heard?
Well, I didn't hear everything. I was taking a nap in this room when it happened.
Why were you napping here?
I had nothing else to do. I accidentally closed the door when the lock was engaged. Before I knew it, I was trapped here. After a while, the sounds of some kind of scuffle were coming through the vents. I couldn't hear everything, but I heard the Duke shout, "Who are you? What do you want?" That went on for a few seconds. Then I heard the sound of someone getting stabbed.
Did you hear the voice of the assailant?
They didn't say anything, but I did hear them. Their voice was really raspy. I think they had a sore throat or something.
Like me! Or they were trying to mask their voice. Obtained evidence, what Jan heard. Shouldn't this just be Jan's account? Jan Hughes was trapped in a storage room near William Frege's study. He took a nap but was awoken to the sounds of some kind of physical struggle. He heard Frege shout, "Who are you? What do you want?" After a few more seconds, he heard the sound of someone being stabbed. Yeah. What? Why did you enter the storage room anyway?
The servants were complaining about rats running through the air vents, so they sent me to take care of it. I heard one of them running in the vents upstairs, and I followed it here. I figured it had nowhere else to go, so I opened it up and put the trap down. After I was done, I tried to leave, but the door was locked. So I took a nap.
Obtain evidence. Rats in the vents. The servants have been frequently complaining about the sounds of rats running through the vents. Jan tried to track one of them down and followed it to the storage room. He only heard a few words before the murderer struck the final blow. It was a small piece, but a piece nonetheless. Either way, it was time to move somewhere else. Fuck you. Stop doing that, game. That's really annoying. Come on, Tracker, where are you? Do. Achoo! Achoo! As I entered Beatrice's room, I was assaulted by a large cloud of dust. Some of it got in my eyes! Oh! As my vision cleared up, I realized that there was someone else in the room with us. Oh! Leaf! Sorry, I didn't mean to barge in. No, there's no need to apologize. Hello, fellow blonde. Aw, that's cute, that's cute. I really didn't need to be reminded about that right now. Hi! I'm really sorry about leaving so abruptly like that. No, I understand. My eyes wandered around the room. I felt really awkward for some reason. It was probably for the best anyway. I had no idea what I was doing out there. No! You were fine! My feet still hurt. I'm sure with enough practice you'll get the hang of it. I'd love to dance with you again. Most of the men who approached me during the ball seem to think too highly of themselves. I much prefer your company. Well, that will have to wait. We're here on behalf of the Crown Prince to investigate what happened. Right. We were wondering if we could ask you some questions. Her posture became tense, which was to be expected considering the circumstances. Of course, I'd be happy to help. Psychological profile? Also, this is just, Miriam's room in the academy. It's a highly extravagant bed. It looks similar to the one in Miriam's dorm at the Imperial Academy. It's a dresser covered in a layer of dust. It doesn't look like it's been touched in years. Is this Beatrice's room? It's a table for guests, but like everything else, it's extremely dusty. Yes, it is Beatrice's room. It literally said it was Beatrice's room. I'm fucking stupid. Yo! There's a trace of transmutation magic under the bed. I can't see it clearly. Let me take a closer look. It's Crimson Lotus! What? It's my sword! What? I never knew her sword had a name. So this is where it's been! But why was it in Beatrice's room? She's reached out to take it, but I blocked her hand. This was the room where they found the sword of spell eating. It's likely that the two thefts are related. But why? The only thing similar about them is that they're both swords. I know, but this could still be part of the crime scene. We shouldn't disturb it. But I'll talk to Steelwind. She can send some knights to guard it. Okay, fine. There was definitely more to this, but what? Evidence updated. You later found the missing sword. Okay. You later found the missing sword was found in Beatrice's... Oh my...
Okay. In Beatrice's bedroom. This was also the room where the sword of spell eating was found after it was stolen. Are these two elements related somehow? Hey, guess what? I'm a lawyer.
It's a runestone.
It's an attorney's runestone. It proves I'm a certified attorney.
Yes, I'm quite familiar with them. They're truly a feat of artificery. Miriam has one for her studies. She's always so engrossed in it whenever she visits. She never talks to me.
Aww. Steelman told us that you were the last person to see William Frege that night. Did you notice anything unusual about your father's behavior?
Well, he was extremely upset. I think Beatrice must have offended him during their meeting. The servant said that he demanded to be left alone. He retreated into his study immediately after Beatrice left. I tried to speak with him after, when the theft was reported, but he didn't much care about the missing artifact. He told me to leave him alone and let the King's Guard investigate the sword. He was probably busy making the changes to his will.
Now that was an interesting thought. When did you speak with him last?
It was before they activated the lockdown. It was a little after 1 a.m. that night.
Evidence update. The Leaf's testimony. After his meeting with Beatrice Frege, William Frege retreated into his study and locked himself within a tea. He refused to speak with almost anyone who tried to disturb him. The only person he spoke to was Leaf Frege. She told him about the theft of the Sword of Spell Eating a little after 1 a.m. But William didn't seem to care and returned to his studies. Through Leaf's thoughts, you also know that he entered the study to make some sort of adjustment to his will. Excuse me. And do you have any idea what he was doing in his study?
What? No, I have no idea.
Leaf, is there something you're not telling us? It's important for us to know about your father's actions that night.
I'm sorry, I don't know anything else. My father didn't share much with anyone, even his own family. I wish I could be of more help, but I really don't know anything else. I refuse to believe that's why he was killed.
She was clearly holding something back. If I could reveal what she's hiding through an argument, she might be more willing to cooperate. But I would need more information about William and his will first. The room is really dusty. Why hasn't anyone cleaned it?
I've forbidden the servants from cleaning the room. Beatrice is very dear to me. I couldn't bear to have her room disturbed after she left. This room was the only memory I had of her.
She must have been holding on to the hope that her sister would return. That must have been 5 really long years. And what about the Sword of Spell Eating? Do you know how it ended up in this room?
I'm not sure. Perhaps they knew that the servants were ordered never to enter this room. It's even possible someone planted it here to frame Beatrice.
What can you tell me about... what can you tell me about your father?
My father was a complicated man. He was a brilliant aristocrat and businessman, but he was a cold and distant father.
I see. Did he have any enemies?
As head of House Frege, he controlled every being house in Wyvern Guard. There were many people who resented his wealth and power.
Can you remember anyone specific? Perhaps someone that he'd slighted recently.
There was Lord Lloyd von Sanctus.
The ruling lord of Oranox.
Yes, I'm sure you remember him. His reputation plummeted after Dracogan's trial. My father took that as an opportunity to slowly take control of von Sanctus Industries. From what I've heard, he's been extremely bitter about that.
With things as tense as they were, I doubted that he'd get himself involved in another murder.
but I could never be too sure. No one spotted a cat walking during the Lord's ball, did they? No, I am certain that there weren't any cats present. She was oddly confident about that. Either way, it sounded like I would have to speak with him and get more details. But I really doubted that he'd even consider cooperating with me. What can you tell me about Beatrice Frege? I heard that she fled the Frege estate 5 years ago. Before she left, Beatrice was one of the most powerful mages I'd ever seen. She is incredible. At the age of 13, her talent for magic had even eclipsed my father's. But it was never enough for him. What do you mean? Before my mother died, he desperately wanted a son, but he only ever had daughters. But Beatrice was just as sharp as he was. She knew which threads to pull to get the results that she wanted, just like my father's. Hold on, I gotta blow my nose. Sorry. Everyone thought that Beatrice would inevitably become the head of House Frege, but our family knew the truth. No matter how hard Beatrice tried, my father would never acknowledge her accomplishments. He was extremely cruel to her. He constantly belittled her achievements and dismissed anything she said to him. And after the After the accident, he used her disability as an excuse to take away everything he had built for himself. For everything she had built for herself. What can you tell me about this? But I don't think I'd be much of help. I don't think anything here. I'm sure Beatrice's return must have been surprising for you. It is, to be honest. I've been hoping for years that she'd finally return. But now that she has, she's just gotten pulled into another one of her family's messes. Okay, that's almost everything. I don't know if I even have everything I could use. Okay, yeah, I don't think I have. I think I'll have to return here. What? What? Hold on. Huh. Oh, the accident. If it's not too painful for you, could you tell me more about Beatrice's accident? Is this even related to the investigation? Any small detail could make a difference. I need to learn everything I can. I'm not sure about exactly what happened, but it was a magical experiment gone wrong. Beatrice was working on a project at the Imperial Academy. She was trying to create a new spell formula. We're still not sure about what happened. But there was an adverse magical reaction. The resulting explosion seriously injured her and left her completely blind. I can't imagine how she must have taken that. No, wait. I can't imagine how she must have taken that. Oh, she was unfazed by what happened. Sorry. Even on the hospital bed, she was still thinking of how to move forward. She was always calculating like that. But it didn't matter. My father saw his opportunity. He told me that he was relieving her of her duties so that she could recover. But I knew the truth. It was just going to take away her political power and social standing. He wanted to reduce her to a mere decorative... He wanted to reduce her to a mere decoration for our home, just like he'd done to every other woman in our family. And that must have been why she left. Did she contact you during the time she was missing? No, no one heard from her during that time. But as much as I worried for her, I was also a little happy. Unlike Miriam and I, she had finally broken free from my father. I learned everything I could for now. It was time to move elsewhere. I explored the manor further and found one of its many sitting rooms. And there I spotted a very familiar face. He was sipping on a glass of wine, and his indifferent expression turned into a sneer the moment I entered the room. Oh, wonderful. As if my day couldn't have gotten any worse. Von Sanctus, what are you doing here? The head of a noble house has just been murdered. I can't very well return to Ornox when my affairs are in such disarray. I hear that you've been busy since we last met. It must be difficult losing your empired house, Freyga. Tyrion, we do need his testimony. Is that so? And what makes you think I'd ever help the likes of you? Because it would take suspicion off of you. And with your reputation, you could probably use all the help you can get. How dare you! I'll have you know that I'm still a respected member of the nobility. Respected? Is that why the papers keep talking about your plot to blow up Ornox? Because the way I see it, being involved in another scandal would destroy what's left of your reputation. But it makes no difference to me. To be perfectly honest, I'd like nothing more than to drag you onto the stand and embarrass you a third time. All he could do was grumble under his breath. Very well. If it means I won't have to suffer your presence any longer, I'll oblige and answer your questions. I'm a lawyer. Did you know I'm a lawyer? Why do you always show this thing to me? To let you know that there will always be people willing to stand up to you. You know Von Sanctus Industries manufactures those runestones, don't you? What? The kingdom distributes those to practicing attorneys. Where do you think they came from? My world has just been shattered. Don't let him get to you, Tyrion. But my runestone proves that you're a certified attorney. It doesn't matter where it came from. It matters how you use it. I guess you're right. There's a window with a view of the outside. It's a chair made from mahogany. Every part of this house just exudes wealth. Wealth that's been siphoned out of the common folk. It's a shelf filled with books. Fake books! They're completely blank. Well, at least they're not taking books that they'll never read away from libraries or commoners who might need, or other people who might read them. You know, something at least. It's a door that leads to the coat room. It's a painting of some adventurers in a tavern. Ah, this must be Beatrice Frege the First. This must be Beatrice Frege the First. The First? According to legend, she was one of the descendants of the 7 heroes of Ivengard. She joined a band of adventurers who were traveling across the nation. It was difficult to imagine the Fregas coming from such humble beginnings. What? Wait, what? What is it now? That muscular man in the corner, he just vanished! What are you on about? There was never a man there. He's right! No, I'm sure he was there! Are you feeling okay? Maybe I was just saying things. I really needed to sleep. Supposedly, one of Frega's ancestors was part of a band of adventurers, but I couldn't help but feel that there should have been someone in the corner.
Arcane!
Nothing in here. Honestly, it's just one mess after another with you. Mess? Wouldn't you have a lot to gain from William Frega's death? If one only viewed things superficially, you might be right, but it's far more complicated than that. House Frege controls the baking houses, and they are the main pillars of support for Ivengard's economy. William's death could have unimaginable economic consequences, regardless of who inherits his house. I wouldn't be foolish enough to do something like that. That remains to be seen. Think what you will. There are others who would benefit from William Frege's death. You mentioned that other people would benefit from Frege's death. Who specifically? If I had to venture a guess, I would say Lucio Steelwind benefits the most. But you just said that the Duke's death could have unimaginable consequences for the economy. Do you think that brute cares about Ivengard's economy? No. All that man cares about is power. Pure and physical power. House Steelwind and House Frege have been fighting for control of Ivengard for generations. And in this long-lasting era of peace, the Steelwind's military has become far less valuable to the crown. The only thing House Steelwind has done was completely mishandle these recent insurrections. If it weren't for Lady Steelwind's engagement to the Crown Prince, they might not even be considered a pillar family. The death of William Frege is probably exactly what Lucio Steelwind has been waiting for. That was definitely in line with what I'd heard about the Grand General. It wasn't as if he were a stranger to murder either. Could this have been another one of his assassinations? Not to mention, if our economy were to suffer, it would slowly create civil unrest. In a scenario like that, the Crown would have to rely on Steelwind's forces to maintain order. And I'm sure you can imagine how that might turn out. It's clear that you think Lucio Steelwind would have much to gain from this, but can you think of anyone else? Oh, there is Harold Haraldson. That can't be his name! But what would Mr. Haraldson possibly gain from Frege's death? From what I've heard, William was planning to defund the Haraldson Hall of History. Haraldson Hall of History? Really? Why would he do that? I'm not sure of the specifics. Supposedly, Lord Haraldson has refused to omit the less flattering parts of Ivengard's history from his exhibits. It's gotten blatant enough that he's drawn the ire of the king himself. They actually got into a very heated argument during the Lord's Ball about it. I heard that William declared he would be removing House Haraldson from his estate. I didn't want to suspect Mr. Haraldson, but needed to examine every possibility. He had the easiest access to the sword of spell eating, and he could have staged a robbery to cover his tracks. What can you tell me about the defendant in this case? What, she's your client? Surely you would know her better than I. Humor me. Well, I'm sure you're aware that she fled the Frege estate 5 years ago. In doing so, she dealt a blow to House Frege's reputation and directly insulted the Crown Prince by breaking her engagement to him. It was quite the scandal at the time. And Lucio wasted no time in pushing his daughter into taking Beatrice's place. Honestly, the situation is just an absolute mess. That woman's return will complicate things. Beatrice's return would complicate things. What did he mean by that? Do you find Beatrice's return to be that inconvenient for you? Or what are you on about now? Please don't insult my intelligence, Von Sanctus. Fine, if you must know. My son was arranged to marry William's daughter, Leaf. Leaf? Since Beatrice showed no signs of returning, it was apparent that Leaf would inherit House Frege instead of her. I know when my days are numbered, so I took preemptive action. William wanted a male heir, and I needed to preserve my house, so we both came to an accord. My son and Leaf were arranged to be wed. House Von Sanctus, who would have been absorbed, but at least my Jaden, would stand at the helm. You nobles are absolutely awful. I should probably consider myself lucky I was abandoned. Think what you will. I wouldn't expect a commoner to understand. That's the problem with your generation. You have no sense of duty or obligation. Leaf has already expressed resistance to this marriage, even though she was well aware of the details. Now I worry she'll hide behind her sister to end the engagement altogether. Obtain evidence. Leaf's engagement. Leaf Frege was due to be married to Jaden Von Sanctus. This arranged marriage was facilitated by William Frege and Lord Von Sanctus. As part of this diplomatic marriage, House Von Sanctus would be absorbed by House Frege. In return, Jaden would inherit the entirety of House Frege from William. Leaf knew how this marriage would affect the future of House Frege. She has expressed resistance to the diplomatic marriage and has been stalling for time. Lord Von Sanctus fears that William Frege's death could cancel the marriage altogether. Leaf never mentioned any of this, as much as I hated it. I hated to think of it. William's death could have gotten her out of the arranged marriage. I needed to talk to her about this. Von Sanctus gave us a list of gave us a decent list of suspects. I probably learned everything I could from him, for now. Do best to move and follow up on these leads. Okay, Leaf. What can you tell me about this, Lady Freyga? My apologies, I don't think I'll be much help with that. I'll save. Leaf was hiding what her father was doing in his study. I doubted that she was doing this for any nefarious reason. She might not even think that it's relevant to the case. But William Freyga had many enemies, and he retreated into his study to do something that night. And that something could be related to why he was murdered. Is that an argument? No, I don't have the psychological profile, though. What the fuck? This has to be a glitch. Fuck it. Has to be a glitch. Is there something you're not telling us, Leaf? Because I have a feeling that you know more than you're letting on. What? What was your father doing in his study? I already told you I don't know. I have no idea what my father was doing. My father was a private man. He wouldn't share something like that with me. He was making some sort of change to his will, wasn't he? What? Did someone else tell him? Why did you find the need to hide this from us? I didn't! Thoughts you saw earlier seem to disagree with that. Oh. That's... okay. We've only just met, so I understand if you don't trust me. But the Inquisition thinks that Beatrice murdered your father, and they're claiming she did it so for his inheritance. That's absolutely absurd! Regardless, your father's inheritance was probably the motive behind his murder. Which means that a lot of people would have a lot to gain from his death, including you. What was she doing? Excuse me? I was not involved in this. How could you even think that I'd be capable of something like that? I'm not so sure. You were the last person to see your father alive. It's possible that you've been lying to us. I didn't mean to imply that you were involved with this, but it's clear that the murderer's motive was to take control of House Freyga. Prosecution clearly won't shy away from prosecuting members of your family. If your sister is truly innocent, where do you think they'll turn their attention next? We didn't mean to imply that you were involved with this. But it's clear that the murderer's motive was to take control of House Frege. This means that their plan heavily relied on who William Frege was leaving his assets to. So I need to know, Miss Frege, how is your father planning to change his will? I don't know. I was never aware of the details of my father's will. I already told you, my father was a secretive man. He didn't share the details of his estate with me. Is it this? Is that really true, though? What? I already know about your arranged marriage to Jaden von Sanctus. And I also know that as a part of this deal, Jaden would inherit House Frege instead of you. You definitely knew about this, and you heavily resisted the marriage in an attempt to stall it. Which means that you had some idea of how your father's will was arranged. So what aren't you telling me, Leaf? I can't trust you. What? You're here on behalf of Crown Prince Aster, and you're a known dissident. You, the other Pillar families, and the Crown have much to gain from my father's death. How can you assure me that this information won't be used against my family? So that's why she was being so secretive. I can't trust you. There's probably nothing I can say to make you trust me, but please understand I'm only trying to find out who murdered your father. I may have been hired by Prince Aster, but I'm an independent agent. I have no stake in this conflict. I was only hired to arrive at the truth. I'll arrive at the truth, one way or another. If you refuse to cooperate with me, I'll have no choice but to treat you as another suspect. Not that one. It's the first one. Okay. Mistaken as conflict. Okay. There's nothing I can possibly say to make you trust me. But please understand, I'm only trying to find out who murdered your father. To do that, I need to know what kind of changes he was making to his will. It's likely that whoever did this wanted to prevent those changes. Argument 1. I have no reason to trust you. But somehow I can tell that you're being sincere. Will you really protect Beatrice? Reassuring her would be the best course of action, but something in the back of my mind stopped me. I'll get to the truth of what really happened, no matter what it is. Okay, if that's truly what you're planning to do, I'll tell you what I know. Did I show you my runestone? It's a runestone! It's an attorney's runestone. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay, I did. I just wanted to make sure. I wasn't trying to be difficult, but I didn't know who I could trust. Considering the circumstances, that's pretty understandable. That's perfectly understandable. I'm not sure why, but my father was extremely upset that night. According to him, Beatrice had returned, and in his words, she was even more impudent than before. Did he tell you what their meeting was about? He didn't, and I honestly didn't really care. I was just so happy that my sister had finally returned. My father clearly felt otherwise. before he entered his study. He told me that he would be pruning the family tree. He said he was going to draft a will to disinherit my sister and several other members of our family. Evidence obtained: William Frega's inheritance. Beatrice Frega fled from her family 5 years ago and went into hiding until the night of the murder. Many of her friends and families. On the night of the murder, Beatrice finally returned to her home. She arranged a meeting with her father. This meeting didn't end as planned, and Beatrice angered William Frega enough for him to declare that he would be disinheriting her that night. Has anyone found the draft of this will? No, it was one of the first things I looked for after the investigation began. The modified will was missing. I doubted that it would be enforced. Never got the chance to submit it for probate before he died. But I couldn't discount the possibility that the murderer destroyed it. Does anyone else know about this? No one. I didn't even tell Lady Steelwind when she was questioning me. Because it would have established a motive for Beatrice. Anyways, thank you, Leaf. Tyrion? Yes? My sister isn't a bad person. She would never do something like this. I know, but she's in good hands. Ruby Timor is the one defending her in the trial, after all. Okay. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. I think I learned everything I could from Leaf. There's only one last person to speak with, Harold Haraldson. Bye, Leaf. I love you. This is a complete mess. As we entered the gallery, we spotted Lord Haraldson. He was inspecting the shattered remnants of the display case. Mr. Cuthbert. He was working for the Crown Prince. Can he be trusted? It seems that word has spread about my deal with Aster. I'm glad to see you. You seem to be doing better. Wait, what happened? It's a long story, I'll tell you later. Not that I could explain exactly what happened. Anyways, Mr. Haraldson, could we... Harold. Right, Harold. I'm sure you already know what I'm investigating. Know that I'm investigating the murder of William Frega. The prosecution suspects that someone used the Sword of Spell Eating to break into the Duke's room. I was wondering if I could ask you some questions about the theft last night. I'll tell you what I can, but I'm not sure how much help I'll be. I can't believe a museum owns a magic item like this. I would have expected the noble houses to take them for themselves. The nobility of today doesn't have much use for items such as these. The power of a lord is based on politics rather than magical strength nowadays. And a noble wouldn't want to wield the sword of a demon, even if the legends are just stories. A demon? Oh, right. The Sword of Spell Eating is said to have been forged from a pact between a demon and a mage. Isn't making a deal with a demon just asking for trouble? They'd definitely betray you the first chance they got. Legends say that demons often drafted blood contracts for this reason. Would that be similar to a legally binding contract? The concept is similar, but once you sign a blood contract, both you and the demon are magically compelled to fulfill its terms. It's said that violating its terms will result in instant death for the offender, no matter who they are. So I guess there's some protection. Well, as an attorney, I'm sure you'd understand that it's possible to exploit and use loopholes in any contract. And according to the legends, demons take great pride in their ability to deceive and corrupt people. Although I'm sure that you already know that, Mr. Cuthbert. Wait, what did he mean by that? According to the prosecution, the theft took place during the Lord's Ball. Shouldn't there have been plenty of witnesses in the gallery at that time? That's the strangest part. Supposedly, the gallery room was completely empty when it happened. What? That can't be right. And honestly, I have no idea how anyone could produce enough magic to shatter the display case anyway. Were the wards protecting the case that powerful?
They were powerful. Well, that's not the issue here. It would be one thing to dispel the wards and remove the glass protecting it. But it's another thing to shatter the glass while the wards are still active. Doing something like that would require an extremely powerful spell, far more powerful than simply dispelling it. Evidence updated. On the night of the murder, someone used a powerful spell to completely shatter the magically protected glass that was containing it. It was later found in Beatrice Frega's old room. But something about the readings on the lock console were strange. It's as if the protective magic had been completely nullified, but that shouldn't have been possible. The locks were designed to be immune to anti-magic fields. The only thing that could bypass it was the sword of spell eating itself, and it only works when being held by someone.
But if they had access to the sword already, they wouldn't have needed to break the display case. I think it's more likely that someone used an extremely powerful spell.
Probably. Well, the sword of spell eating wasn't the only item that was stolen either.
What? There's another artifact stolen that night?
I just wanna...
Arcane.
Ah. There are traces of evocation magic on this shattered glass.
Evocation is the school of magic that creates and unleashes raw energy.
It's the most primal of the 7 schools of magic. Someone must have used a powerful spell to blast the display case apart.
Okay, that's all. Actually, let me just...
Display case is completely shattered. The thief was able to do this despite there being several abjuration spells protecting it.
Okay.
You mentioned that another item was stolen?
Yes, it's extremely concerning. After the sword of spell eating was reported missing, I checked the other exhibits. And that's when I discovered that the armbands of intellect had been stolen as well. And unlike the sword of spell eating, we still haven't found the armbands.
I looked at the glass case where the armbands used to be. They'd been removed, but the glass case was completely intact. The thief didn't shatter the glass.
Moreover, the armbands were actually replaced with a very well-made replica.
What? On the night of the murder, Harold Harrodson discovered that the armbands of intellect were also stolen. The glass case holding the armbands wasn't shattered, and the armbands were replaced with a very convincing replica. What was going on here? The 2 thefts were completely different from one another. You mentioned that someone would have needed a powerful spell to shatter the display case. Wouldn't that narrow down the list of suspects for the theft? Not everyone attending the spell could cast spells that powerful.
Well, according to the Inquisition, Beatrice Frega's magic was powerful enough to have done this.
Discounting the fact that she's completely blind.
Yes, I'm well aware of that, and it doesn't sit quite right with me either.
Was there anyone else at the Lord's Ball capable of matching Beatrice's power?
Only the heads of the 4 pillars could have invoked magic that powerful. But apparently Beatrice is an exception to that.
Was Beatrice really that powerful? Or was she being framed by one of the house leaders? But the cases can be opened normally, can't they?
Ah, yes. The magical locks in the case can be disabled. Are you scared, big dog?
I detected some fear. What was he hiding? Was he hiding something? How are they normally disabled?
They can be turned on and off using a spoken password.
And how many people know this password?
Only myself. I personally oversee the transport of those items when they're moved.
Evidence updated. The spells that guard the displays can be temporarily disabled using a spoken password. Harold Harrodson is supposedly the only person who knows this password. So Harold could have stolen the sword that night. Could he have staged the robbery to cover his tracks? Harold, a witness told us that you got into an argument with William Frege on the night of the murder. Was William Frege planning on defunding the Harrodson Hall of History?
Yes, he was. But that doesn't mean that I had anything to do with his murder.
Did your argument last night turn hostile?
I'll admit that our discussion turned heated, but it never escalated to threats of violence. With how insulting he was, it should have. William was being unreasonable, and I was frustrated, but that's all there was to it. He deserved what happened to him.
Did you have any conflicts with him prior to that night?
We have had disagreements in the past. He was receiving pressure from the crown about what I was displaying in my museum. The king believed that some of my exhibits were too controversial for the public eye.
What do you mean?
I'm sure you've noticed the rising tensions between the common folk and the nobility as of late. I've never been one to shy away from the bloodier parts of life in God's history. The citizens must know about these parts of history, otherwise we're liable to repeat them. We're already seeing that happen with Grand General Steelwind and these insurrectionists in the countryside. Nothing but brutish simpletons, a lot of them.
It was clear that Harold was passionate about his work. Would that passion have driven him far enough to commit murder, though? So many people had a motive to murder William Frege, but who actually did it? I took some time to review everything that I'd already learned. Motives aside, let's go over the events that happened last night. It all started when the sword of spell eating was stolen. What do we know about the thief of the sword? We don't have a specific subject, but we do know something about them. The thief has powerful magic.
It would be one thing to dispel the wards and remove the glass protecting it, but it's another thing to shatter the glass while the wards were active. Doing something like that would require an extremely powerful spell, far more powerful than simply dispelling it.
The thief has powerful magic. Magic strong enough to bypass the obdurative words entirely. But what about Harold? He could have unlocked it using his password. He could have stolen the sword and staged a robbery, but he couldn't have shattered the glass. Only a powerful mage could have done that. And I heard Harold, and I doubt Harold would lie about that, when we could easily confirm it with Steelwind. Right? But then what happened next? They brazenly stole the sword of spell eating. This caused Harold to report the theft of the King's Guard. After Lord Haraldson reported what happened, the Inquisition discreetly placed the manor on lockdown. They searched every room in the manor to try to find what happened. But it was eventually found in Beatrice's bedroom. And that led them to believe that she had stolen it. That's correct. The King's Guard moved to arrest her, but Prince Aster ordered them to step down. And then there's Leaf's statement. My father was extremely upset. I think Beatrice may have offended him during their meeting. The servant said that he demanded to be left alone. He retreated into his study immediately after Beatrice left. I tried to speak with him when the theft was reported, but he didn't much care about the missing artifact. He told me to leave him alone and let the King's Guard investigate the sword. When did you speak with him last? It was before they activated the lockdown. It was a little after 1 a.m. that night. Leaf's account gives us a clear fact about when William died. But what does this tell about William Frego's death? Okay. William died. No. Yes. After the theft was reported. Didn't we say that before? in the previous one of these little sections? William Frege was murdered after the lockdown was activated. This means that whoever killed him bypassed the lockdown and broke into the magically locked room. They had to have used the sword, right? Yeah, most magical locks are immune to anti-magic fields. Otherwise, the lockdown would have just disabled the locks. The sword of spell eating must function differently if it produced that effect. That's still not concrete evidence, though. And we haven't even spoken to all of the suspects yet. Right. You never got a chance to speak with I never got a chance to speak with Lucio Steelwind, but given his status, I wonder if that would even be possible. Either way, it's a good start. It's not as if we are defending this case. The trial is getting pretty close anyway. I didn't doubt Miss Timora's abilities, but I could still compare notes with her before the trial began. It was a little strange that I hadn't seen her since the investigation started. Maybe she was meeting with Beatrice in the dungeons. Oh no, Ratholm. I arrived at the dungeon to search for Miss Timora. She wasn't at Frege Manor, so she must have been here to discuss the case with Beatrice. Or at least that's what I thought. I didn't see her anywhere here too. I didn't expect to see you here. Ah! Celeste let out a shriek as Eris approached the two of us from behind. She really had a habit of doing that. I was starting to wonder if she was doing that on purpose. Eris, what are you doing here? I want to see. I do have Lloyd here. How are ya? A prosecutor from... She's the daughter of General Lucio Steelman, leader of Ivancourt's military. It's hard to read her emotions even, but okay. Oh, the Crown Prince of Ironguard's royal family and next in line to the throne. Despite his status, he seems to be a big admirer of me and Miss Timora. He appears to say the injustice is perpetuated by the nobility as much as I do. Custodian who works at the Imperial Academy. He does not work at the Imperial Academy anymore. Leader of House Von Sanctus. Okay, just that again. Okay. Student of Ironguard. Very secret. Okay. Head of House Frege and the Duke of Finance. His noble house is one of the 4 pillar families and responsible for tax collection and the exchange of resources. House Frege owns and controls every banking house in Ironguard. Okay. Beatrice is actually an acquaintance of my father. He sent me here to help her through this ordeal. And that brought up so many questions, but I didn't really have the time to pull on that thread. There was less than an hour before the trial began. I needed to find Miss Timora. Have you seen Miss Timora anywhere? I need to talk to her. She was just here, but she left to retrieve some documents from her office. Do you have any idea when she'll be back? She didn't say, but I can pass a message on to her. I'm sorry, it's related to Beatrice's case. In that case, why don't you leave a message with Beatrice herself? She is the defendant of the case. I felt a little hesitant, but it was Beatrice's life on the line. If anyone should know about what I'd found, it's her. Okay, let's go find her. I followed Eris's lead as she led us to Beatrice's cell. Once we found her, she left the dungeons to give us some privacy. I spent some time going through my findings with Beatrice, from the list of suspects to the possible motives behind the murder. I noticed that with each revelation she became more uneasy. The idea of someone framing her must have been stressing her out. I see. You've certainly been very thorough. Yes, but I still have no concrete evidence that points to anyone. If he reveals these findings to Prince Asta, might suspect something.
What?
Sorry, I was just thinking. And I was able to catch one of those thoughts. Beatrice, I'm sure you're aware that Prince Astor has your best interests at heart. I know. Even though we haven't spoken for the last 5 years, I still consider him a close friend. Then I suppose you have no issue with me sharing these findings with him. Of course not. This is bad. Even he wouldn't support us if he knew that I was involved.
What? She was actually involved in this?
Is something wrong, Mr. Cuthbert?
Beatrice was actually behind this? But how? She's completely blind. She couldn't have navigated through the manor and avoided the guards. Arya did say that she was intelligent, but doing all of this while blind was ludicrous.
Not really, Tyrion.
If, what's his face? Acro from Turnabout Big Top can kill a man while disabled and while he literally can't leave his room, then, like, this blind woman could commit murder.
No, I must have been taking your thoughts out of context. Mr. Cuthbert, perhaps you should get some rest. I thought very carefully about what to say next. There was one way to get a certain answer through the eye, but if I was wrong... Beatrice, you weren't actually involved in this, were you?
Tyrion?
Her gaze narrowed in response to my question. Once again, she clapped her hands together. Do you suspect me now, Mr. Cuthbert?
You didn't answer my question, Beatrice.
As if I'd even need to justify it with a response. But no, Mr. Cuthbert. I was not responsible for my father's murder. I might as well have been. Legally, I was more of an accomplice.
An accomplice? Someone else was involved in this.
Cuthbert?
Miss Timora?
My mentor seemed to have sensed the mood in the air. She raised her brow at me.
Miss Timora,
can I speak with you alone for a second? Okay. What's wrong? Is everything okay?
Miss Timora, Beatrice, she actually did murder William Frege.
Miss Timora's lips pursed. Her eyes darted around the room to make sure the guards didn't overhear us. What are you talking about? How could you possibly know that? I saw it with the eye of Horus. She conspired with someone else to orchestrate William Frege's death. Have you told anyone else about this?
No.
It's not as if they'd believe me anyway. You're the only other person who knows about my abilities. Okay, we'll talk about this later. I need to get ready. The trial starts in half an hour.
What? You're not seriously going to defend her, are you?
Of course I am. I'm her attorney.
But she's guilty. I saw it.
Look, at this point, I don't know what you saw. Do you think I can just abandon a client minutes before a trial?
No, but...
It's not for either of us to decide who's guilty and who's not. Everyone has a right to an attorney. More importantly, you had no right to use the Eye of Horus on my client.
I mean, the prince himself told me to look into the murder. Like, that involves talking to people involved, and Beatrice is involved. So, come on.
I don't have time to argue about this. We will be talking about this later. Before I had a chance to respond, Miss Timora walked away. Celeste had given us some privacy, but she definitely inferred the tone of our conversation. Is everything okay? Celeste, I think Beatrice was actually behind this. What? I couldn't blame her for not believing me. It's not as if I could tell her about the Eye of Horus. It's not as if I could tell her about the Eye of Horus. Although, why hadn't I told her? Alright, so what do you want to do now? What? You wouldn't say something like that if you weren't sure, right? I thought long and hard for a moment. Maybe we don't need to do anything. What? Steelwind is handling the prosecution, and she's far from being a pushover. If Beatrice is truly guilty, I'll just have to trust her to get the job done. Either way, I don't think we're in any position to get involved. Alright, if you say so. It was really none of my business. I had no stake in this. I wasn't obligated to do anything. I'd done everything I could. I would just have to leave it in Steelwind's hands. It was none of my business. William Frege was a tyrant anyway. He was a noble who did nothing but steal wealth from the common folk. The world was better off without him, and it's not as if any of this was my responsibility. Miss Timora must have been doing this for a reason. All I had to do was wait for the trial to run its course so we could just put all this behind us.
Objection!
Your Honor, I'm afraid you can't pass a verdict just yet.
Mr. Cuthbert?
Cuthbert? What the hell are you doing? I don't know. But what I do know is that there is a massive contradiction in Miriam Frege's testimony. Who was I kidding? As if I'd ever stand by and do nothing. Alright. Well, we will prosecute Beatrice Frege. Next time, my throat is sore. Bye-bye!